Hi, Thomas. Welcome back again.
Hello, Pius, and welcome, students.
Welcome back to this last interview session on a topic that is very up to date, and we are currently practicing it. It's the question of online presentations or conversations over video and other portals. Well, sometimes you don't have the choice to do it, but sometimes you have between different means. So based on your experience, what would you say, which are the opportunities to speak, to communicate, or to present that actually go quite well with this kind of platform, and which are the ones you should avoid where it is really not appropriate?
I would make a difference between critical communication, which I believe should be in person,
Okay.
and let's say less critical, such as sharing pieces of information.
Yeah.
In a kickoff situation, for example, I think it is important that you meet people in person. A friend of mine, a great consultant, Uwe, he was asked to lead a project, really a program, that had a volume of 12 billion. This was a worldwide company, or still is, the company still exists. And he was supposed to get them to work together. And they said, oh yeah, you can do this all through video calls. Now, he refused to take the job unless they let him take an around the world ticket on an airplane, visiting all the offices around the world. So he would know these people in person. So you get a chance to go eat dinner with them, to feel them out. And once they would be back at the office through video call, they would have already had the connection, the personal connection. And he says that was worth gold. That was really important. And I believe the same here. Those people who know each other from before in person will have a pretty good time online. That will work nicely. If it's somebody that you meet for the first time, it's much harder.
Yeah.
And this then goes on. Yeah. If you want to initiate change, so if it's something that is, to a large extent also touchy-feely, if you want to call it that way,
exactly.
Where it's important that the chemistry works nicely between the people working on the project, the recommendation is, if any way possible, make it in person. Now, if there's something like a layoff, it should be in person. There was this movie with George Clooney, and he did it in person. Now, the movie wasn't very, or his job, I don't think was very, not one that I would want, because he was hired to lay off people, to pass on the message.
Yeah.
But he did it in person. At least that, even though he wasn't the formal boss or the official boss, he was an outsider who was hired, but at least there was a body there.
Yeah.
So I think that these kinds of difficult communications should be in person. Same thing with negative feedback. That if you can anyway, I recommend to do it in person.
Yeah. Now, in current times, in current COVID times, is there anything you can do if you have to communicate online? Is there anything you can do to make such a conversation or such a presentation more personal than just the second best after a personal announcement? Is it possible, and what would you suggest?
Well, there are a couple of things. One thing that I like about your background, for example, is I can see a little glimpse of your, home office.
Exactly.
You're working from home, and I see this little oven pipe.
Right.
And that makes it a little bit more personal than my background. My background is very formal, very, or in quotes, professional, if you want to call it that way, but it's much less personal. So if you want to make it personal, you could have the real thing, the real background. Yeah, that is a possibility.
Yeah.
Either way, I heavily recommend that you look into two things. One is the hardware and the software that you're using.
Okay.
So from a technical standpoint. And then the other standpoint is the delivery and the content, the presentation piece, the rhetorical parts.
Right.
From a technical standpoint, I heavily recommend that you have great lighting. So I can see you. It needs to be a good, attractive picture.
Okay.
The closer you get to television quality, the better, because then it's more attractive to watch. The people, when they used to watch still TV, nowadays many people watch, they still watch TV on Netflix, not called TV anymore, but they do still watch that. Well, it's an attractive picture. Yeah, the visual is in high quality. It's high density, HD, therefore much more attractive to watch. If something is out of focus, it's bad lighting. And then, of course, not only the lighting is useful and conducive to watch someone, but it's also the sound. Make sure you have both a good webcam. I recommend an external one.
Yep.
Ones that have been built into your laptop are usually cheap pieces of you know what. They're just not very good.
Yep.
You will quickly notice that. When you are in a meeting with several people, look at the gallery view and then check out the ones that are nice to look at and the ones that you feel ugly picture. You will immediately notice. And the ones with the good picture are usually the ones with the external webcam. Now you might ask for a recommendation. One good company for webcams is Logitech.
Okay.
In my particular case, I have a C920. I'm very happy with it. I think it does a great job. Well, you decide, but the external webcam I heavily recommend. Same thing with the microphone. Either use headphones, they give a much better sound. But then again, from a look standpoint, I don't think it looks as good. In addition to, for example, like this. I mean, it's okay, but I prefer not to have the headphones. The good thing with the headphone is you get the microphone close, so it has a good sound, as if you were on the phone. Many people with their smartphone, they use a headphone, which is perfectly all right. Or then go ahead and get an external microphone. In my case, I have one of these things.
Okay, I see.
And I have a pop blocker, so if I have a P, then it gets filtered through this thing, and then it doesn't sound as hard on your ears as it would if there wasn't this sound blocker for the consonants that are explosive, in particular P's. Anyway, so yes, external webcam, external microphone are very useful. And I think now that we are observing the second wave of Corona, I definitely think it's worth investing into this external equipment. I mean, each piece costs you maybe $100 US. For many people who will be watching, this is not that expensive. And I think it makes a big difference. Then makes it much more attractive to listen and look at you. So that's the piece for the technology, the technical piece. Now, then it's of course useful you go through a sound and the visual check, audio visual check, make sure that everything works all right. Take some practice. Again, practice makes perfect. Same with technology. The additional difficulty with online meetings is that you have this technical piece that you need to take care of. In a live presentation, there is very little of that. The only piece that you need to manage is your PowerPoint presentation if you use it. And because you've done it many years, or most of us have, it's no longer really a challenge. Whereas now with the online meeting, meetings, it is
True.
yet to be something that comes as second nature. Still not as second nature as other things. Anyway, so then we come to the rhetorical piece. How do I deliver my message? Well, many things are the same as in a live presentation. A live presentation and an online presentation should have some variation in various aspects. I mean, the worst thing that you can do is you deliver a monotonous presentation, the same voice, same speed, same pitch, one slide after another, same methodology. It is super boring. Therefore, I say, don't bore your audience. It's got to be some interaction. The more interaction, well, to a certain extent, make sure you have some interaction. For example, by a raise of hand, who has been to beautiful Switzerland before? Ah, I see. There's still something you have to look forward to.
Right.
Or if everybody rose their hand, you could say, oh, great. I'm glad you've been to my favorite country, or whatever. Yeah, you think of two answers. One answer when they all raise their hand, and another answer when they don't. Okay, so you have an answer for every situation. Interaction can also take place via the chat, of course. Yeah, you have a chat functionality. So please write whether you're in favor or against of this proposition. Say yes if you're in favor, write no if you're not. And then people will start typing. And then you can pick up on those answers in the chat. It's an interaction, makes things more active, lets people participate. Yeah, because here in online, you're really competing with the other person's email program. You're competing with their smartphone. You're competing with their children who run around in the background or something.
Yeah.
So yes, that is a key piece. Now, during online presentation, just like in a live presentation, you can also bring props. It doesn't have to be presentations, slides only. So in my case, you saw that in the last couple of interviews we had, Pius and I brought a real book. Hey, in this case, it's about the subject matter of online meetings. Unfortunately, this only exists in German for now, but it's in the pipeline to come out in English. I don't have a deadline yet, but we'll work on it.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, real things. Bring us something real, whatever it is. One thing I many times say for live presenters is when they come in with a iMac, with a MacBook. I say, yeah, that's a great piece of hardware. It's great. Now, unfortunately, just like with Mac, as with other producers, those things become thinner and thinner, and the weight is less and less, which is great. However, also the interfaces become smaller and smaller. Therefore, the bag I have to carry around with, where I have all the adapters inside, these things here, becomes larger and larger. So it's like I'm saving on the laptop, but this thing is getting bigger as we're speaking.
Yeah, true life, definitely.
So again, same thing, by the way, try, if you can, both live and online, if you can, try to inject some humor. If you manage to get them to smile, if you manage to get them to laugh, depending on the audience, depending on the situation, of course, but many times if you do that, it's in your favor. The example I mention usually is this. You go for coffee with somebody, or you go for a beer or whatever. Yeah. Who will you go there again? Who will you ask again to go to coffee with? Some boring person? Somebody who speaks monotonously? somebody who doesn't say anything? Probably not. It's more likely you will go to somebody who's fun, somebody who's interesting, somebody who has something to share. Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily you fall off your chair from laughter, no, but it's somebody who keeps your interest.
Right.
I mean, you've probably been on a date, yeah, like most everybody, yeah. And then, yeah, who's interesting? Well, somebody who raises your interest, somebody who has something to tell, somebody who has ideas. Hey, why don't we do this? So should we go and play bowling? Should we go and have a beer or get some coffee? Or shall we do this or the other? It's all about interest. And it's the same thing with presentations. Yeah. So make sure that it's varied. Now, in an online presentation, there is a little etiquette I recommend to also remind people of. Just like in an online meeting, in a live meeting, there are some things that help the meeting to be more successful than other things. So in a group, tend to decide on certain rules, on certain etiquette. So one of which could be that you say, okay, I put myself on mute. If I don't talk, so there is no interruption and no distraction from, as I said earlier, maybe kids who are running around in your house because you're at home, working from home, etc. That could be one thing. Or then another thing is that if your bandwidth, if the power of your computer is strong enough, then have all your videos on. So the person speaking doesn't just speak with the camera, but they can see some reaction in the video. So that's much more personal and it's much more fun. Sure. And one thing I introduce usually with my audiences is, hey, let's do the virtual clap, the virtual applause. And it's like this. You raise your hands and you go like this. And if you're in gallery view and you see everybody do it, that's fun. It makes you feel good. Yeah. So that's a few pointers there as to how you can make your online meetings good. Again, this is the same in a live presentation. Well, as opposed to doing this, you applaud if something was well done. In an ideal situation. I know, especially in Switzerland, the culture is not very much into, especially meetings, they don't clap, which I find a pity because you then don't get the feedback from the audience. You're kind of, how did they receive it? Was it well done or not? Yeah. But anyway, that's the case. So one will adjust. Then again, here online is new, and then you can introduce new rules. So if you like the idea of this, giving applause, well, suggest it and try it out. And most likely you'll see, hey, that's nice. Then, of course, another piece that helps to make things more, to introduce more variation is split meetings. Zoom, the software Zoom in particular, has a great feature to send people into breakout rooms. Okay, so yeah. Always in the same group, but you get to go into different, virtual rooms. They call them breakout rooms. Right. Then you get to speak to other people. You give them little assignments. They get to solve the assignment. They do something. There's a different dynamic. So again, you have variation. It keeps them awake. Usually in the breakout rooms, they need to develop some ideas. That they get some assignment and then they talk about something. And then when they come back to the plenary session, they get to share what they discovered in their breakout room. Yeah. Again, this is a great variation. Yeah. Right. Then, of course, yes, once in a while, why not show them a slide? I usually introduce my slides with, oh, okay, for all those slide junkies, here is one. Yeah. Those who have been desperate. And unfortunately, here, Pius, you and I right now are really not doing well on that one. Those who really need a slide to learn, they are in desperate need of one, but I don't have one. Okay. But for today, go back to the first presentation. There we had one. Yeah. But your advice would be not to transpose the typical PowerPoint presentations necessarily online. Is that the point? You could speak more freely. the point I'm trying to make is to have a variation, not just a slide and talk about it, and next slide, talk about it, next slide, talk
variation.
about it. That
Okay.
becomes monotonous.
Yeah.
The thing is, shake it up, make different things. And then, of course, always it depends on what you're trying to convey. If there's a lot of information, let's say you have a training session, you might have several slides because there's a lot of material that you want to share and make sure that they can read it as well. Speaking of reading, sometimes in an international setting in particular, many people don't have English as their first language, as their mother tongue. So they have it as a second or third, or maybe sometimes fourth language. There, in that case, it can be that both the pronunciation of the speaker and what people are used to hearing as English is sometimes not in sync. So they don't easily understand each other. Therefore, it can be very helpful to have a slide with writing on it and people can read. So then they're on the same page. Then they can adjust and see, this word in his dialect and his accent is pronounced this way. Then it helps to understand. So there are, there's a whole book full of tips how to make online meetings exciting. So you want to?
So this is your recent publication, I know.
And then there are, of course, other authors, that have also great publications on online meetings. They are in English already, so it doesn't have to be mine. You'll get great ideas. You can already collect ideas if you watch others closely. Watch those that you like and note down what is it that makes you interested in his or her presentation. And of course, too, what is it in certain presenters that you don't like? And then avoid that. All right. So here are those were a few pointers to having great online presentations. I can add a few more if you like. One, be on time. Even better, be early.
Early, right.
Both for the start of the online meeting, as well as when you're the presenter, when you are going to finish. Hardly anybody is upset if your presentation will take less time than expected. Case in point, you have 30 minutes to present, but you only use 20. Well, the difference, the 10 minutes, you can use to answer questions or to finish early. Most people will be happy. That gives them time to go and have a cup of coffee, or it'll give them time to prepare their next meeting, or think about, take some notes about the meeting that just took place, or the presentation you just gave, and take some notes. Do things. It's like a present to them. It's a gift of a few minutes that they can use at their own will, the way they want to.
I agree.
Then we had also noted the etiquette earlier. One of the things you might agree on in your group is not to have anybody leave early. Unless she or his wife or your wife expects a child. I think that's an important reason to leave. Or your house is on fire. Well, or sometimes, one of your kids is coming in. You can't stop from leaving your desk and taking care of this situation. Yes, that can happen, of course, but it shouldn't happen. And in a group of 10 people, in a half an hour, you might have one person who has an emergency. But you don't have 5 of 10. No, never. That doesn't happen. So the etiquette could be, you agree on, hey, we'll stay until the end. Unless, of course, the presenter goes over time.
The ultimate sanction, you leave.
Yeah. Or you just go turn off the video, audio, and I mean, you're still in the meeting, but you're no longer there. Of course.
Okay.
Now, what you might do, you can also set an incentive for the participants to stay until the end.
Okay.
So let's say at the end, we'll have a little quiz. The prize will be whatever. I'll invite them for lunch, dinner, or I'll send them one of my books for free or something. And it's like, okay, yeah, I want that.
Little teaser, right?
Yeah, a teaser. Many of them will say, oh, okay, that's cool, unusual. Yeah, I'll stay. And then ideally it's something that people want. It shouldn't be just okay, I don't know, something uninteresting. But yeah, you can think of something. Think of your audience. Think of what they might like, and then go ahead. And that could be then the prize.
Okay, nice idea.
My recommendation, in addition, is that at the end of your presentation, make sure that you've also planned a good ending. You might not be surprised. I find myself many times when I follow the presentation that at the end, I can't recall everything that the person said. Therefore, I recommend heavily to come up with a summary of the things that you shared.
Yeah.
Help the audience remember what you said. So in our case, the summary here would be, okay, we talked about technical aspects of preparing an online meeting, hardware and software, and the rhetorical pieces, the pieces that come with the presentation.
Right.
So as organization, as different pieces that keep the audience's attention, how to make it attractive. And then finally, at the end, have a call to action. Make sure that they actually will do something with your information, what you shared. So in our case, it could be listen again to all interviews of Pius and myself to make sure you remember all the important pieces that will be relevant for your future communication as a project leader or as a private person. Yeah, communication works for any situation.
Right.
And then finally, you could send your participants a follow-up email to make sure that they also have things in writing. They can find it again when they do a search on their laptop, computer, or whatever device that they are using. So here we go. Call to action. Go ahead, listen again, and apply those tips and tricks that Pius and I shared during these interviews. I wish you good luck and success in your new role as a project leader.
Excellent. So again, a strong end. And actually, the end of the presentation is not the end. Come back to the participants with a message, with an info mail, and so on. Okay, like that. I think that's an important point, because sometimes these ends of Zoom or other meetings are sometimes a bit, with low energy. And I think that's an excellent piece of advice. Perfect. Thanks a lot. Thanks for this interview. Thanks for the interview series. And looking forward to continuing working with you and benefiting of your advice.
Welcome. It was a pleasure. I had fun. I hope you did too. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.